Welcome to Peak, Train Like a Girl, a podcast by girls in sport, for girls and coaches in sport. We're here to amplify your voice. It deserves to be heard. At Peak, we are a safe place for girls to hang out, learn, grow, and build community. We empower girls in sport and coaches with knowledge and resources and support we think is necessary in today's athletic environments to thrive. Join us for bold conversations about the experience of girls in sport. Our discussions will make you laugh, cry, get frustrated, and hopefully rethink the future of girls in sport for generations to come. So whether you're walking, commuting, hanging out in your dorm room, which I know our two guests are doing, or cleaning your bedroom, take us with you. Follow us. It helps more than you can imagine. Check out our website and make sure you share with a female athlete or coach you love. So without any further delay, I'm so excited to be bringing you from Iowa City, teammates Annie and Megan. Welcome to the podcast, girl.
Yay, thank you so much. So excited to be here.
I'm so excited that you are here. So I think everyone's pretty familiar with Megan. She's our intern that has graciously been running the podcast alongside of her full school schedule and her athletic schedule, which we're so grateful for. But we get the chance today to meet and talk with her teammate and roommate and friend, Annie. So welcome to the podcast, Annie.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Awesome. So what we do before we do anything, like any proper swimmer does or any proper runner or basketball player is, we get warmed up. So you ready to get warmed up with us?
I am.
Awesome. Okay. Winter or summer?
Ooh, summer for sure.
All right. 4-star hotel or camping?
That one's tough because I'm totally fine with either, but I would probably have to go with the 4-star hotel.
Nice. Or glamping. We always go with glamping. I love that. Okay. Short distance in the pool or a long swim?
Short.
Nice. Okay. Road trip or plane?
I'm also fine with either, but honestly, I love the road trips.
You and I are the same there. I don't think we're in agreement with most people, but I kind of like the way a road trip unfolds.
Yeah. And you're able to see so much more.
Completely. And when you get frustrated, it's because you did something wrong, not like you're blaming the airlines or a pilot.
That's so true. I've never thought about it in that way. That's so good. That's a really good
one. Okay. Now I do have to circle back with the winter or summer. This has almost nothing to do with that, but I'm curious. Do you prefer to swim outdoors or indoors?
Outdoors for sure. I love swimming outside.
Nice. So in a pool, lake, ocean, all of it?
All of the
None of it? All of the above. I love it. So is open water swimming in your future?
Definitely not. I like swimming in lakes, but not with goggles. When I was younger, my family would always try to get me to do it, and I just don't like the goggles in the murky water. But I love swimming in lakes for fun.
Nice. I'm with you. And I think that's why I never really excelled in swimming was because of my whole issue with goggles.
That is very understandable.
Nothing else was going wrong for me. It was just the goggle situation. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for having some fun with us and getting warmed up. As I know you were both aware, and from a coaching perspective, I mean, you've got to keep it light and fun and know when to take it serious. So thank you for playing around with me.
Absolutely.
Now I'm going to pause here and ask a technical issue because it doesn't appear that we're recording because my thing still says 0.
I got it on my end.
You got it recording on your end?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, so thanks for figuring out the technical glitches here. That's why I invite Megan to stay with us. So, Annie, now that we've got that solved, why don't you fill us in a little bit, your journey in sport? You can go back really as far as you want, but we'd love to know how you got started in sport and how you ended up at the University of Iowa.
Sounds good. Yes. So when I was younger, really young, I just started doing sports as a kid. When you hit that age, my parents kind of threw me in everything: softball, really everything. Track. I did it all for a little bit. And then as I got older, swimming is kind of just a sport that I noticed I was excelling in more. And I remember too getting to the point in, I think it was soccer, and it got to the age where it started to get a little bit more physical. And I don't think I really liked that. I didn't really like when girls are like pushing each other around. And so I think neither of my parents swam growing up. They grew up in super small town Iowa, had a local pool, and maybe did a few swim lessons. Actually, my dad always says he went to his first swim lesson and failed it and never went back. So there was really no swimming background in my family whatsoever. But I think my parents saw a swim team ad in the local newspaper for Ames Cyclone Aquatics Club, which was the club I swam for growing up. And they threw me into a trial type thing. And then at first I didn't like it. It definitely took a few years. Didn't really like going to swim practice. But once I started making friends and having a community, and I started seeing more results and getting better, I really started to like it. And honestly, growing up swimming in club in high school, those were all my best friends. I swam for Ames Cyclone Aquatics Club, ACAC, growing up, and I'm so thankful for it. We had how our team worked was the same girls who swam for club, swam in our high school team too. So we were all together all year round, and I swam backstroke growing up, always have been a backstroker, a little bit of butterfly, whatnot. And then high school swimming was like my favorite thing ever. I tell Megan about it all the time. She probably feels like she has lived through it because of how much I talk about my high school swimming experience. But I loved swimming for Ames High. Growing up, it was always like all the girls were so excited to get to high school and be able to be on this team. And I'm going to say we were really pretty good. So that was really fun. And that was honestly the highlight of my high school time, and so many amazing friends and relationships. And I was lucky enough that I had the opportunity to swim in college. So when I was a junior, that's when I started getting those recruiting calls. And honestly, when I was a junior, I was like 16 years old, didn't really know at all what I wanted to do with my life. So took a number of visits to a bunch of different places. Took a number of like SEC and then like Big 10, Big 12 places my first time around, and ended up landing on the University of Kentucky. And I made that decision junior year. I think it was like January of my junior year. That was before COVID or any of that happened. And the University of Kentucky, I was deciding between Kentucky and Iowa my first time around, were my two. And I decided to just take a leap of faith and go for it. And that's what I did. And so fast forward then to my freshman year at Kentucky, and I was obviously 10 hours away from home in a new place, learned a ton about myself, about swimming, about a whole different culture and world, met so many friends, made so many relationships. I feel like I grew as a person a ton just because I moved 10 hours away out of my comfort zone. Right. Obviously, that's where I met Megan. And we always talk about, we feel like it's like meant to be that we're friends and roommates because her story. She was committed to Iowa and then ended up at Kentucky. So lucky that I met amazing people like Megan when I was at Kentucky. But ultimately, after my sophomore season, I decided it was the right decision to enter the transfer portal and visit a number of different places. I was looking to go a little bit more close to home, either Big 10 or Big 12, visited, I think, 4 or 5 different schools, and landed on Iowa. So happy I did. It's been a really great decision. Once again, met so many amazing people, so many amazing relationships that I'll have for the rest of my life. And that now I finished my last 2 years of swimming and just wrapped up my last swim season, was it 2 weeks ago? Yeah. Which is crazy.
It is crazy, right?
Yes.
Does it feel like it flew by?
Yes and no, I would say. Yes and no.
I like that. Two things can be true at once, right? We're going to talk a lot about that today. Yeah, I like that. So explain that a little more. So why yes and why no?
When I think about the 15 years as a whole, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. I cannot believe I was just an 8-year-old girl going to swim practice.
Yeah.
So I think that 15-year time span is like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. But I feel like the student athlete world in general, what is it that they say? It's like the days go by slow, but the weeks go by fast.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm still so fresh out of my career that like I still remember the day-to-day grind, which I don't think any athlete will ever forget. So I think that part of it is where the slow part comes from, where it's like the days go by slow, but then when I think about it as a whole, the weeks and the years have flown by for sure.
Yeah. And I love it's so interesting because we don't do a lot of prep for this podcast. And yet everything you're talking about is kind of circling around the conversation we want to have today in regards to mental performance.
Yeah.
So one of the things I want to go back to is when you started talking about your club experience and your high school experience, you could feel I mean, I'm in Illinois and I could feel the joy radiating through you. I could. So I want to talk about that. So I want to talk about two things. I want to talk about do you think, and then you also said, and we were really good, which you could say that. So I want to talk about what do you think came first? Do you think that the fact that you all liked each other and loved each other and then you got good, or do you think you were good so you were able to like each other? So that's the first question.
Mm-hmm.
And the second question I want to ask is, what do you think? Because we are here to have forward moving conversation, and the dropout attrition rate for girls in sport is large.
Mm-hmm.
It's big. It's a big number. It's way more than boys in sport. And we know when we lose a girl, particularly in middle school and high school, the chances are they're never coming back to sport, which is super sad for a bunch of reasons. What do you think we can be doing to model what you were able to experience better? So those are the two questions for you.
Yeah, those are great questions. What was the first one? The first one was about, I said how we were really good. And so it was if I think that
what came
I
first?
enjoyed it because we were good and then had the relationships relationships. And I 100% think it was because of the relationships first. I think if I've learned anything throughout my time being a student athlete, it's the relationships, the people you meet, and the friendships that make all the difference. And I talked about too how I think it goes back to when I first started swimming when I was 8 years old. The first year or two, I would cry before practice. I didn't want to go to swim practice. Mom, why are you making me go back to swim practice? And then once I started making those friends and those relationships, that's when I started to enjoy it. And that's when I started to love it and loved going to swim practice. And I even think about now too. Actually, I was just talking to a former teammate about this last night, and she was like, how have you thought about your last race that you ever had at all? And I was like, no, I have never thought about my last swim race since I had it. Like, not thought twice about my races. I think about my high school swimming experience too. I don't remember a single time I went. I don't remember any of those times, but I do remember the memories I made with my friends, those relationships. So to answer your question, I definitely think it was the relationships first and then the times second, because we wanted to come to swim practice every day and we wanted to be together and we wanted to work hard together. Ultimately is what happened is we pushed each other because we had those relationships first. Does that answer your question?
Completely. Okay. I've got so many more questions from that, but I do want to circle back to what do you think we can be doing from a sports perspective for our younger athletes, for our middle school and high school athletes to keep them in sport longer? Because you obviously stayed in something that was super hard. I mean, like, not to mention it's freezing cold in the morning. You have dry skin. Your hair turns green. Like, there's a lot of things about swimming that aren't good.
So many things about, That's
what
a great
do you think
question.
we can be doing?
Yeah. And as we go on this podcast, I might have more answers as we keep talking. But if I were to say this right now, it's a great question. Honestly, I feel like it would be listening, just listening to the girls and listening to their opinions and what they have to say to keep girls going.
Yeah, I agree. I think tying both questions together, I just feel like it's so relationship based and like making it a safe and fun environment first, and then like expanding it into, you know, like I want to get better at those tiny specific things, whatever sport it is, and like adding in that intensity and competitiveness. But I feel like to me that's such a big thing, especially with like young ones. I grew up coaching swimming and just like helping them learn to enjoy the sport first. And feel like, yes, I want to come back. This is fun. This is something where it's like I'm enjoying moving my body like this, like simple as that. So that's kind of what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are good. And I'm with you, Annie. I'm sure that there's going to be more of that pops up.
Yeah.
I've been really circling around this question a lot. And as a coach, I try to figure out how can I incorporate the different certifications that I have. So I'm a certified yoga coach. I'm also certified in yoga trauma and athletes in yoga.
Okay.
And I think people think that yoga is about being flexible, and that's kind of not what yoga is. Yoga is about breath. It's about being present. It's about, connecting to self so we can connect to others. And the reason I'm saying all that is I'm wondering if we don't get to that trust piece and that safe place that you're talking about, because we don't take the time to kind of understand that. And then, because you talk a lot about like, and you said, well, then I got good and so you trusted the environment you were in, which meant you were doing all the things. You were coming to practice. You were getting the rest you needed. You were listening to your mom when she was saying you have to go to practice, because you know what? Sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do.
Yeah.
But through all that, you gain confidence, and it then becomes this big circle. But you can't have confidence until you build the trust. And the trust isn't just between you and the coach then. It's also between you and a parent, if we're talking about younger athletes. And then the trust is between you and your teammates. You knew your teammates had your back. And I'm wondering how we can create opportunities for kids to realize it's not just about performance. It's also about understanding who you are mentally, emotionally, socially, because those are the things that you talked about, that you said for both of you, that makes an athlete great. And again, I'm wondering, do those things have to come before performance comes?
Yeah.
I really believe so. I think so. It's funny that Annie and I have gotten super interested in yoga this year. Annie's actually taking a class right now.
I am.
And I think that we said this to each other so many times. We're like, why haven't we been doing this our whole life? It allows you to just like take a minute, like close your eyes. And I think especially with sports, I know we were touching on this earlier and probably later too, but I think there's that visualization piece too that you can easily do with any yoga practice, where I totally agree with what you said, that when people think of yoga, it's like, I'm not flexible. I can't do this. It's so much more than that. It's totally about learning how to use your breath to your advantage, visualization, and, picturing race plans and how you're going to execute. A big piece, I think, is why we started to enjoy it so much. And then also something different, and like finding out new ways that your body can move and work other than what you're doing in the other 6 hours of working out, I think is a big thing that we've enjoyed.
I want to add on to that too. Is that something I've learned since doing more yoga? It's what Megan said, is everyone's practice looks different. And I think that can kind of be tied to also what we can do for female athletes to keep them in sports. Is like everybody's journey is different. Everybody's different. And I don't necessarily think like girls at a young age see that. They see like, oh, these girls that are older and successful and doing well in their sports, like, but not everyone doesn't get to that point the same way. And I mean, Megan and I are like prime examples of that. Of we thought we knew what we were doing when we went to Kentucky, and then decided to pivot and take a turn and ended up at Iowa. And that's a very different journey than most college athletes have. So also I think like adding that piece of it too to younger female athletes is like everyone's journey is different. The way people do things is different. It's not all the same. Is huge.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's so good. And I love the way you kind of went back and tied that piece in, because I think you're right. I think that makes a lot of sense. And that's the hard piece, right? So we know that everyone's journey is different. We know that everybody looks different. We know that everybody arrives at a place differently. And the only thing you want to do when you're in middle school and high school is fit in. Right?
Yeah.
So that makes it harder, right? Like it's hard to say to somebody, hey, this doesn't matter now. It's going to matter in 4 years or 5 years. And you get some of that. Like, I understand some of that too. And we've talked about this many times on the podcast, the social pressures.
Oh my God. I'm just going to say that, Anne-Marie.
Yeah, they're different. Yeah, it's different today because everyone can see everything. I mean, so that is different. And I think that does require us as both adults and caretakers and coaches to be able to pivot there. And I do want to say this, though. I just had this conversation with our son, who is also a coach, yesterday. That idea of listening, I think you're right, is so critical. But I think we have to realize it needs to be reciprocal, because one of the things I've noticed in the past several years with high school athletes is that this idea that they know it all. And listen, we've all been high school, like you even said, like, I knew that Kentucky was the right fit. Like, I knew this, like, whatever. We've all posture up at that age. But I think we are also willing to defer that there is somebody that knows more than you do. And I think one of the things that's a little struggle now is I do think high school athletes think, because they have so much access to information, I think they know it all.
Yeah.
And that's a hard athlete to coach, because you're not coachable then. And I think to perform well, both mentally, emotionally, physically, you do also have to be coachable. Do you think that's true?
For sure. You got to keep an open mind. And I completely agree. Like, the listening aspect, it does go both ways, and listening to your coach, and because they do have more experience than you. Like, that's just the way it, and to learn from them. Yeah, that's huge.
I totally agree. And I think trying to get across to a high school athlete these days, it's so tough, because they can be totally bought into your conversation and listen, but then 20 minutes later, leaving practice, they go on your phone, they see a video of this, like, hey, why didn't we do this today in practice? I feel like we should be doing this. Like, and then that whole conversation of, I know what we should be doing more than so.
That is real.
Yeah.
A bit familiar, but I can't agree more. I think we've lost touch with that a little bit with all of our, social media world that we live in. So strongly agree. Yes,
strongly agree.
Yeah. And listen, and that's the thing. Listen, I do think, there's people that do what they do well out there, and there's people that don't do what they do so well. But I think that if you can trust that you have a coach who's doing their due diligence to make sure they're on top of their profession, and they know the latest research and trends, and they know what to do, like, I do think that you do have to buy into that trust factor there. You can't be constantly questioning, what it is they're doing and why they're doing it and what their motives are, because that also gets exhausting.
Exactly. Which I think all comes back to what we initially talked about, just that trust and relationship. We just have to.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Building that firm foundation. I think that's right. So when we're talking,
I just want to add too, like,
what
I feel like from my college swimming experience, especially, like, that trust has to go both ways too.
Yes.
It's a relationship is two ways, and it's
100%.
important for not only the student athlete to trust the coach, but the coach has also got
100%
the student athlete as well.
Yeah, it's reciprocal. That is 100%. That is true. And I think that's one of the things from a coaching perspective. There's things I know I can do better. That's something that I'm really confident that I can do well. I know when I can trust, like, I trust when someone says, they're too hurt to practice. I trust that. Or when someone says they've got too much on their plate to be at practice, I trust that. I mean, like, or, they say that, they had whatever it is, right? Like, I trust that. And once I've done that, you get to a much better place, particularly in a sport like swimming and running. The sports are different because it is hard and it is painful. Like you are going to hurt when you are competing, right? It's going to hurt. That's just the way it is. Yeah. So I also have to be able to say to you, hey, listen, Annie, like when you get to that, 50-meter mark and it hurts, and you think that there's something physically going on, like really tap into that and decide, is there something physically going on, or am I just mentally not prepared to push to the next level? Like, and that's sometimes I think hard because unless somebody trusts me enough to say, you can push through the 1K, you can push through the 2K, like you can do this, but you have to have the trust first.
Yeah. You have to have the trust. And also at the end of the day, like you can't make someone do something they don't want to do.
Yeah.
And like, as a coach too, like, it's like you give everyone the tools that they need to succeed. And it's like, it's the student athlete then who you take that and run with it,
Yeah. So if mental performance skills, I'm just kind of like spitballing here, but like, so focus, confidence, emotional regulation, I can't really think of, I guess, pain management, whether that is like, so those, if those are the skills we're developing, right? What's a takeaway? So besides yoga and meditation, which we've kind of already talked about, what are some other ways that athletes can work that mental performance muscle? Because it is a muscle. Do you guys have any tips there?
I think my biggest tip for athlete mental health is to find things you enjoy outside of your sport, because you're a person outside of your sport. And I think about when I was in high school, not only was I a swimmer, but I was involved in other things too, whether it was like dance marathon, whatever. And I didn't realize how much I really enjoyed those other things. And then when I went to Kentucky, I didn't necessarily do that and find things that I enjoyed outside of just swimming. And that was really hard for me. And then when I came to Iowa, I made that a goal of mine to make sure I was doing things outside of just my sport. And I was just a happier person because it wasn't all about swimming 24/7. And honestly, for some people that works to be all about swimming. But I really do think that being able to find happiness and joy in things outside of your sport, because you are so much more, like people say it all the time, you are so much more than just like a swimmer or a runner. You're so much more than that. And so doing things outside of your sport remind you that you're more than that. So then once you get to the pool or the field or the track or whatever, then I just think you're happier. And then obviously you practice better when you're happier and ultimately perform better.
I think that's one giant positive cycle right there.
Right.
To go off of that, I actually had a teammate at our last meet at Big Tens. She was like, hadn't really touched her best times in a few years. And she did really well. She went a couple personal bests and the other one was, she was right on. And she was like, seriously, I'm finally able to do this again because I'm happy. I love the people I'm around. I love my teammates. I'm in a happy, place mentally. So I think that there's a big correlation between those two things for sure.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I like that you talked about, because that is something tangible that we can do. I think sometimes when, I think quotes are great, but actually I don't love quotes. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, like to me, we cannot just one off like one quote away from like finding excellence. I think that what you guys both said, you have to find your own secret sauce. And like you wish you would have found yoga earlier, but you found it now. But what you found earlier was to find love for things outside of sport. And you're exactly right. Maybe that isn't somebody else's secret sauce, but you have to find what works for you. And even like with the physical training, like not everybody, we've got 3 different programs out there. Even our highest performers don't all run the same miles. There is a secret sauce. And so, the same way we train different physically and we lift different loads and we practice different lengths and all those things, that's the same with preparing that mental performance piece. But you have to work at it. You have to find what makes sense. And then to find that sweet spot, like you said, that happy place, I think makes so much sense. And I think that sometimes we think that if we do well, we will be happy.
Yeah.
And that it doesn't work that way. You've got to figure out what makes you happy and then you will do well. Do you guys think that's right?
100%.
100%
Yeah.
that way. And I think that definitely took us a long time to realize that too. Oh, there's just so many things that we've learned.
Yeah.
So many
things. Yeah.
Yeah. And what about the idea, do you think? So we've talked about trust, which could also be safety. So social, emotional, psychological, physical trust and safety, which leads to confidence. What do you think about the ideas of like abundance or gratitude? Do you think that those are like, so one thing I've started, and I've never done this before, I'm on day like 7, so keep cheering me on. I've started a gratitude journal. I've never done this.
Oh my
And it's simple. I'm writing 3 things down. I mean, like, it's not rocket science, but like, I've heard this and I heard that it's a resource and it's a tool, and I've kind of like, oh, really?
Right. Yeah.
But I actually am enjoying the process. Do you guys do anything like that, like journaling or any of those type of things?
That's so interesting because I have also been told to journal and start one of those for so long. And I've always wanted an opinion. I don't know why I've asked, so I love that opinion. But I really do think that's a huge tool. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it allows you to give yourself a different perspective at the end of the day. And, maybe like not get whatever feeling it is, frustrated or super happy. You can kind of stay more like level and understand how your how your week went, and just, feel more relaxed. I want to say, like, once you're at that, whatever practice you're going to, it just because, it's bigger than, just those 2 hours. Or does that make sense?
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause one of the other things we've been talking about, or I'm trying to articulate and have the athletes circle back to me, is the difference between I get to run, or I get to swim, I get to play basketball, and I have to. Like, I have to swim, I have to play basketball. This have to, where it's, again, talking about abundance, you have to feels like a lack, like there's scarcity involved. Like, if I don't do this, then this. But this I get to attitude is, hey, I'm going to show up and I'm going to do my best, and there's no strings attached to this, and my self-worth isn't attached to this. I just get to do this because I'm fortunate or lucky or blessed. Or do you think there's something to that the difference between I get to and I have to?
Yeah. I would for sure say so. Definitely just that more positive outlook, the more glass half full versus glass half empty.
I can never figure that out. What is it? The glass is something.
The glass is something.
Yeah. No, for sure. Like, I think that just goes back to the happiness part we were talking about before. The more positive you are, ultimately, you'll be practicing better and then performing better.
And I think the thing about positive too, right, is that it helps us get through the bad and the hard, because we all have bad and we all have hard, right?
For sure.
Yeah. Who did I cut off there?
No, it was just me. No worries at all.
Right. I'm good. It wasn't our guest. It was just Megan.
It's just Megan. Sometimes that I have to. I mean, like you just said, there are definitely long days and you're sore, you're tired, but that kind of almost turns into like it's a weird word, but like a punishment. And it's like you have to remember, you're so fortunate that your body can move like this. You're able to have resources around you. So it's really tough. Like 100%. I've definitely said in my life, I have to go to swim practice.
For sure.
Completely.
But I think if you even like are journaling, that's where something you can, write down and practice that. So I think,
I think also too, this is another thing Meg and I have picked up on and noticed is a lot of times, especially when you're with friends and you're like frustrated with something at practice, and then you like go home and you like want to rant to like your teammate, and it kind of just spirals into like this negative energy. Like, that happens to everyone, like everyone
lately.
But like something like Megan and I have started doing is, and we've done this for a few years, but like we'll go home and we'll rant and we'll be frustrated. But then once you get it out, you say, okay, no more swimming. We're not talking about swimming anymore. And you just forget about it, move on. And let it go. And then you get out what you need to get out. And I think that like kind of goes along with journaling too. Like you get out what you need to get out, and then you like close the book and let it go and move on.
Oh, I think that's so true. And it's so funny. It has nothing to do with my athletes or my profession, but I'll do that with my husband. And now after many, many years, he knows if he just can let me like rant for 4 minutes, doesn't even have to read it, and then it's like totally done. Like, just let me get it off my chest. Let me get it out of me. Like,
Yes.
You don't need to fix it. There's nothing that has to happen. I just need to get it out.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, that's hilarious. Yeah. So if it ever comes, it also applies with relationships outside of sport. And if you ever get, married or whatever, it works with that.
That's very
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. You can't really, as a coach, you can't really do that to a bunch of high school.
No, yeah.
So I can't do that there. So you do have to know your audience. Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Hopefully your high school coach and your college coaches don't. Although I'm sure you've had coaches that have done that. Have you? Anyone? Or they just go off? Like they just verbally vomit? Yeah. That's hard, right?
It is hard. It is very hard because, the whole energy and the environment of the practice, I think, immediately changes. And then a lot of emotions come with that, too. So definitely we've experienced that. For sure.
Yeah. And there's a safe place to do that. I agree. Like with people you know and trust and that are kind of at your same level where you can go and just. But as a coach, I'm just for coaches that are out there listening, I don't think that that's a really good tool to use on your athletes.
No, I agree. And like,
just let me go off for 4 minutes.
I agree. And I feel like Megan and I have also noticed too, as former athletes now and coaches out there listening, is that like ultimately the vibe is set by the coach and it's like top down, and it's like if your coach comes in a bad mood or is quieter in the morning or doesn't have energy, like everyone has tough days, but like
completely
that's difficult for the athletes.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that's a good place to pause so we can get Annie cooled down. But I would love to have you on again because I would love to talk about maybe after graduation, you guys can talk about what's next because this has been a blast.
This has been great. I would love to come back again. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We're going to get Annie cooled down here. So what's your favorite pump up song?
Oh, God.
Song in a long time.
Honestly, if I'm being honest with you, I don't really listen to music before so
many people are saying that. I
don't know. I feel like I like to be just in the me environment and with my teammates, and that calms me down more than listening to music, because then personally I just like get in my head a little bit more. But I love country music, and so probably country music.
Nice. But I love that you say that. I've had more people say that, and I actually really like that, because remember when you'd watch people and like these athletes would get off the bus and they all had these big, huge headphones on. I'm like, no one talk to each other anymore.
I know. No, yeah.
So I like that.
Yeah.
All right. So if talent were not an issue, what sport would you love to excel?
Ooh. Megan just whispered to me golf. How or not an issue, a sport I would love to excel at is, that's a great question. I've been asked the question before, like if you didn't do what sport you would do, but I've never thought about. Honestly, I would say volleyball. I've been getting super into volleyball recently, and have like loved watching like the NCAA tournament and everything in the fall. So volleyball.
So fun, right?
Yes.
I have to go to the track. I have to walk past the main gym now, and there's badminton tryouts. I'm like, oh my gosh, I know that I could be so good at badminton. I would not be good at it because that's why I run, because my hand-eye coordination is terrible. So I may be going with badminton now. Like I picture myself like just in these epic matches with this birdie going across.
That's so perfect.
All right. Last question here, Annie. If you could ask, let's pick a good number, 5 people to a dinner party, who would you?
Oh gosh. This might be my least favorite question, but I think I would ask the Queen of England.
Love.
Wait, can it be dead or alive?
Can be dead or alive. Sure.
Okay.
I love
Yeah,
that.
the Queen.
Nice. Love the dead queen.
What's
So Queen Elizabeth, right?
Queen Elizabeth, like the one who passed away. Yeah. Okay, so Queen Elizabeth. Do you have any ideas?
what countries are you
Oh, Luke Combs. I love Luke Combs.
Sure, fun.
Taylor Swift.
I love Taylor Swift.
Me too. Oh my
Love
gosh, I'm
Taylor Swift.
love. So far, it looks like a super fun party.
Yes, super fun party. Who else?
Who am I? What female athlete?
Yeah, my favorite female athletes.
Probably some volleyball.
Probably some volleyball girls.
Perfect. A tall volleyball girl is what we're going with, right?
Yeah.
Quite the table.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want one more or are you closing it down?
Oh gosh. I feel like I should do. Yeah, I think that's good. I think that's a great dinner party.
Nice. I think it sounds good
Really
too. I'm not gonna.
interesting mix, but I think it's good.
I think it is too, and I'm not even going to ask you what you're going to serve. That feels like way too deep right now. All right, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
tuning in.
having me.
This has been a blast. And thanks everybody for listening. It has been so fun. I cannot wait to have Annie and Megan.